Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, everybody. So this week's Torah story is called Parshat Vayikra, and Vayikra means "and he called." This is the 24th weekly Torah portion in the Torah, and it's the first portion in the book of Leviticus. So we're starting a new book. We have just recently finished the building of the Mishkan, the Holy Temple, and this Parsha is all about laying out the laws of sacrifice. So it gives you a hint, as it always does, in the name of the Parsha, Vayikra, and he called. It's referring to God calling upon Moses to come to him so that he could tell Moses of all of the laws about offerings and sacrifices and how those were to be done in the Holy Temple, in the Mishkan. And long story short, he tells him about the different sacrifices and offerings that are to be made in order to make up for certain sins, but also the different offerings to be made in order to perpetuate blessing. So it comes down to this, okay, from a Kabbalistic and more practical, grounded in perspective. In life, you get what you give, period. Okay, the first law of magic, sacrifice. You have to make space for that which you want to manifest. And so that really is the root of this story. But it's a holy thing. It's not just talking about, manifesting money or manifesting a boyfriend or a girlfriend, okay? This is about manifesting what is right, what is real, what is true. Manifesting that light of the Most High, drawing in that light into our lives, into our collective world too. So it's not a selfish process, it's a selfless process. It's about understanding that we're a part of the collective, understanding that we as individuals and as a collective consciousness need to make these intentional sacrifices or offerings in order to ensure the continuity of blessings. We need to reciprocate for all that the Creator does for us, each day, each moment. And so something you might want to think about tonight and in the week ahead is, how can I give back more? First of all, what do I receive? On a daily basis, maybe on a seasonal basis, or even moment to moment. What are the simplest of blessings? Have I been acknowledging those blessings? What can I do to further acknowledge those blessings? How can I express deeper gratitude for those everyday blessings? So you might want to think about, what kind of rituals have I been doing, or what kind of rituals can I do to give back seasonally, for example? What's a ritual you could do every winter, every fall, every spring, every summer? To give back for the seasons, that turn of seasons, change of seasons. What can I give back every day? Because each moment we're receiving. Okay, so there's this whole idea of people saying, and I'm sure you've heard this before, you may have even said it yourself, I'm always giving, I'm always giving, I'm always giving. You are both giving and receiving, because we are beings of polarity and we can't help that. So it'd be best to come out of that mindset, that old program of I'm always giving or I'm always receiving. You're both. So this story reminds us to go back to that knowing. Remember, you are both a giver and a receiver, and you can't help that. And that's why in this life we need to be dedicated to consciously be givers always, because we are unconsciously, whether we like it or not, receivers. And this goes back to that whole concept of, we want to be like God, we want to be like the Creator, we want to be compassionate, we want to be giving, because when we're giving, we're like God, because God doesn't receive but through us. God is all giving. And so that's why we're told, we want to be like that. Because it takes effort to intentionally and consciously direct our will to be giving, to keep giving. But it takes zero effort to receive. We can't help but receive. We are human and so much more, but we're in these bodies. And so we're receiving sustenance, nourishment from the elements every moment. So it takes effort to give, and that's what makes it sacred. That's what makes the act of giving sacred. So we then have to consider, what am I giving? What is the quality of what I'm giving? And is that reciprocation a balance? Do I need to give more? And in what way? Maybe I'm not giving from my heart. Maybe it appears like I'm giving on the outside, but am I truly giving from my heart? Am I giving in a way that I feel like I truly should be giving? Not giving with a grudge or giving but holding resentment. We need to be right within and without. There needs to be that reflection, that clarity. When we give, we should be wholeheartedly giving, intentionally giving. So Parshat Vayikra really reminds us to tune inward, right? Every Shabbat gives us something to contemplate, a topic to contemplate within our own minds, to have that self-dialogue, but also to bring up at your Shabbat dinner or with your friends and family throughout the week ahead. This is the topic of conversation tonight and in the week ahead. What am I giving? How am I giving back? Because I'm always receiving. And if I haven't been recognizing that I absolutely am a receiver, how can I begin to acknowledge that there's no way around that, and I got to stop denying that, and that of course I'm always receiving every moment? And what are the blessings that I've been in denial of? What are the blessings I have not been acknowledging? How can I be more grateful? And how can I express that gratitude in ways that give back, in ways that reciprocate? Okay, just like Adam and Eve ate from the tree of knowledge, and God said, that's the one thing I don't want you to eat from. Don't eat from this, right? So it's like God gave them that one thing, even that one thing that he said, this is my one thing, and they still ate from it. And they received that wisdom. They received life from that. This whole experience that we are now evolving with today, still evolving with. So God gives us this life. The Creator gives us this life. How can we, in return, give our lives to the Creator? Make our entire existence an act of offering. How can we look at our thoughts, our words, and our actions and refine them to make sure that they're all expressions that are giving back to the goodness of all creation? How can we fashion our thoughts to be offerings of gratitude? Because they all can be. And then our words will reflect that, and our actions too. And remember, there are offerings or sacrifices that we make to repent. If we're holding guilt or shame for something, there are things that we can do to help neutralize that guilt and that shame. Things that we can do to feel better about something we haven't been feeling so good about. Acts of kindness, acts of service, just getting it off our chest, speaking with someone, that's an offering. I'm offering my truth. I'm offering something that I've been holding inside. That's an offering. So there are things that we can say or actions we can take in order to make things right. And that's an offering. That's a sacrifice. But there are also offerings and sacrifices we can make that aren't because we feel guilty or we think we've committed a sin. And don't be afraid of that word, sin, okay? It's nothing to fear. A sin is just something that, is something that maybe we're not proud of, or something that continues to cultivate feelings of shame or guilt, lower frequency feelings that aren't doing good for anyone. So it's looking at it like that. We either sin or we do good deeds. So if we sin, it's just a matter of learning from it and saying, well, that's not an expression of my highest self, so how can I make it right? That's really all that is. But going back to what I was saying a moment ago, remember, we don't only make offerings or sacrifices because we've done something wrong. Sure, there are definitely those two. We have to neutralize the energy. We have to balance the scales, but there are also regular offerings and sacrifices that one should make in order to ensure the continuity of blessing, in order to give back, to not take those blessings for granted. Because what we're not grateful for will be taken from us. And we think that they can't, so we take these things for granted. For example, the change of seasons. But even that, look at how we're affecting our planet, and temperatures are changing and the seasons are being affected. It's all being affected. And so instead of wasting our time doing things that are actually poor for the environment and taking away from those blessings, we can spend our time and direct our awareness toward making sacrifices and offerings that ensure the continuity of those cycles, that support the continuation of those cycles, that say, hey, we are grateful, we acknowledge, we recognize these natural blessings that are upon us each moment, each day, each season, each year. And we see you, God, creator, creation, nature, thank you. How can I support? How can I give back? How can I be sure that I'm doing regular rituals, making regular offerings, right? Because making them regular and consistent really locks in that consciousness of gratitude. It has an effect. We can't just have the gratitude for it. All gratitude lives within. All things live within, but we need to give it a vessel for it to do something. That's where the structure comes in. That's where the ritual comes in. You can't just be the light. You already are that. Now it's time to do something with it. You know what I'm saying? So this Shabbat and this story, Vayikra, is calling to us, as God called to Moses, to say, hey, remember the laws of offering. Remember the laws of sacrifice. Spend your time doing that, being giving, because we can't help but receive. That part's easy. But how can you create structure and rituals to ensure that you keep giving, to ensure the continuity of all of the blessings that God shares with us? And the second parsha that's read right now, because this is the Shabbat before Purim. So Purim's coming up. I'll be sharing a lot about that in our private group Shabbat crew here on Facebook. But this is the parsha that's read on the Shabbat before Purim, and it's called Parshat Zakhor. And this is called the portion of remembrance. This Shabbat is known as the Shabbat of remembrance. And the story before Purim is always the story of remembering Amalek and the Battle of Amalek. We always remember this story right before Purim. The Battle of Amalek is the first battle that happened after leaving Egypt. And Amalek really represents doubt. Okay, so it's a metaphor. It's saying when we leave Egypt, which was representing that dark place or the subconscious even, and we come out into consciousness, right? It's like you're in the subconscious, you struggle, you're reprogramming. It's not a bad thing. It's a necessary part of life. It's beautiful. So you're in that place and you're doing reprogramming, shadow work, right? And you come out into the light of day. You come out into that more conscious space. Okay, so you go from like the moon to the sun, for example. You're going to have tests, right? This is the process of growth, the ascension process, evolution, whatever you want to call it. We reprogram, we do the work, we come back out into the world, and then boom, first test right away. Because the work is never done. So that's what Amalek is representing. When the children of Israel leave Egypt, they're finally liberated. Their first battle and their first test is Amalek, battling the nation of Amalek. The gematria of Amalek is the same as the gematria of doubt. And so there's a hidden story there that we have to understand. Our greatest enemy and the energy behind whatever appears to be attacking us is always doubt. And that goes with you wherever you go. See, it doesn't matter that you left Egypt, you left the subconscious mind. It's still there in you, in us, in the back of our minds. And it's not something to be afraid of. And the reason we read the story again every single year is to remind ourselves, don't be fooled. Don't act like, oh, we're good from here, we're liberated, the work is done. Never. So it's best we stay humble and remember the story of Amalek to inspire us to remember that our greatest enemy is within. And it's self-doubt. And there's always more self-confidence to cultivate. There's always more trust to cultivate, which is like the higher form of self-confidence. We move from self-confidence to a more holy form of that when we have self-confidence, confidence in the one self, which is all of creation, which is one with the Creator. Okay, so moving from self-confidence to trust, to faith. So every year we have the potential, and every moment, because a moment represents eternity, every moment we have the opportunity to recount that story of Amalek, to remind ourselves, stay humble, that self-doubt is in there. And then it becomes not about the self-doubt, but about the neutralization of it. And that's the key. The doubt is not real anyway. We leave these bodies, we die eventually. The only thing that's real is the light. But there's always more light to cultivate. There's always more light to multiply. So when we're remembering the doubt, it's not something to, and a lot of people miss this here. So listen carefully, open up your mind. Open up your mind here. It's not so much about the doubt as it is the inspiration that comes of that humility. Okay? A lot of people say, oh, I don't want to show my true power. I don't want to acknowledge my true power because my ego will take over. Your ego also wants you to play small. Your ego just doesn't want you to find that balance. It could be one way or the other. Don't be fooled. The ego will either tell you, oh, play small because we don't want you to be powerful, or play powerful because we want you to fool yourself. Okay? You want to find that medium. Be noble, for you're made of the stars. Be humble, for you're made of the earth, right? So on Purim, we're reminded of this truth. Parshat Zachor, the Shabbat of remembrance. Remember Amalek. Remember, your greatest enemy is yourself, self-doubt, lack of trust, lack of faith. And don't fear that, but remember that. Stay humble. And in remembering that enemy of self-doubt, we remember the mission of self-confidence, faith. Because there's always a higher level to achieve. There is always that next level of expansion awaiting us. So on the Shabbat, before Purim, we have two very powerful stories, Vayikra and Zakhor. And this is like a double whammy, y'all. It's saying, Vayikra, remember to make your sacrifices, make your offerings. Gratitude is everything. If you don't create the space for something new by making a sacrifice, that new thing can't come. So that's a very powerful law for manifestation. May you use it for the most holy missions, with the most holy intention. And then paired with that from Zachor is the remembrance of our greatest enemy, which is self-doubt, Amalek. When we remove that self-doubt, we build our self-confidence, we build our faith, we have the potential to reach new heights, and then with the message of Vayikra, we create the space for that new light to be drawn in. These two stories together are very powerful. So soak it in. Shabbat Shalom. I wish you guys a super meaningful Shabbat. Enjoy these dialogues within your own mind and your heart and with your family and friends. I wish you a meaningful Shabbat. And I'll see you guys in our Shabbat crew private group for some more Kabbalistic information on Purim and the codes of this holiday. Because every holy day, every holiday in the Jewish culture has a mystical understanding that applies to anyone. It doesn't matter who you are, we are one. So if you want to know more about the codes that are hidden in the technology of Purim, check out our private group, Shabbat Crew, on Facebook. I do have a basic video about Purim and these codes. If you go to my YouTube channel, youtube.com/RebeccaMagic, and just type in Purim, or you can just go to the YouTube search bar, type in Rebecca Magic Purim, and the story will come up. Super easy to find. I'm looking forward to sharing more articles and information with you in our private group. So have an awesome Shabbat. Have an awesome Purim. I'll see you for all of that, and then I'll see you for the next activation on Royal Path Tarot page, which will be for the full moon. Bless up.